could play a flute, but I can't. My name is John Vlahovich. I'm a designer in Tacoma, obviously, I guess. A designer that is passionate about interior design, graphic design, photography, architecture, and it goes on and on. It can get sort of complicated. I think back that the passion that I've had for this since almost day one, but I wasn't aware of it until I wasn't aware of it. Let's put it that way. I vaguely recall, when I was 3 years old. Family was living in San Pedro. I was born in San Pedro, and the family was moving to Tacoma. On that trip, in the back seat of the Dodge sedan, my brother, who was older, is 18 years older and driving, we'd play the car game. He would say, "What car is that going by?" And I would say Buick, Chevrolet, Packard, whatever. Now, how I knew that, I don't know, because I couldn't read, and someone obviously told me that. But it was a sign that I realized later I had this ability to notice detail that was pretty strong in my life. But not for some strange circumstance. I almost made it into a circus sideshow as an exhibit. Let me explain. My mother was told during her pregnancy with me that the doctor came into her room and said, "We'd like to know if you would offer your child up for science," and that I was going to have 2 heads. So when I was born with 1 head, they realized that the doctors realized that the second head was actually a removable tumor, and my mother turned out just fine. But it was a strange situation, and later on in life, in my early adult life, when I was getting into business, so to speak, or starting life in business, my mother wanted me to be a success like any mother would. But in the art world, she couldn't quite understand how you could make any money. And my brother was a successful CPA. And she said, "Maybe you should take accounting." And I said, "Mom, I don't have a head for accounting." and that was basically very, very true. So I'm a first-generation Croatian, born in a hard-working fishing family that wasn't exposed to any visual art of any sort, and or any arts of any sort, but didn't realize until later that if whatever is in me came from uncles who were boat builders, boat designers, cabinet makers, instrument makers. So, not that I have that talent, I don't, but somehow that's where that came from, I believe. I didn't really realize it, though, until I got into college and had a chance to get some formal education in painting and art and design. My K through 12 series at Tacoma was basically coloring within the lines of the mimeographed image, whatever that may have been. And I went to Bellarmine High School, but in those days there was no art being taught at that time. So my first year in college, I had one very good professor, Nick Damascus. This was at Seattle University. He was very critical of anyone in class and a good instructor. And he gave me the confidence to realize that there's something that might be there. And so I took every one of his classes. Near the end of my graduation he was making up classes for me. So that was a good experience. But when I got out of school, well, after that, I had a short stint at Frederick Nelson's in window display prior to going into the Army. The Army was another experience that turned out okay. But getting out of the Army and coming back to Tacoma and looking for a job in design, in interior design or graphic design, was difficult because I couldn't recognize anyone who shared my same philosophy. So that was an experience that was sort of disappointing to say the least. And I opened my own office. That was the only choice that I had. The slide that you see behind me here, of course, suggests or shows different projects that we've worked on over the years: interior design, marketing design. Some of them, all of them enjoyable to work on, some of them huge disappointments because they didn't materialize. And anyone who's in the audience and the creative end of it knows that you get great ideas and you don't realize until you're in real life that you have to figure out how to sell that idea and make the client convinced that this is the way to do it. That doesn't always happen. Anyhow, one of my first paintings, okay, wrap it up, all right. One of my first paintings is up in the upper left corner at the age of 13, or 12, I'm sorry. And that was the start of it, to say the least. Thank you very much.